Today what I'm going to talk about is the keyword tags that you can create in applications where you write in some text and like foo, and you do a comma or enter, and the text you typed in um, becomes this nice keyword tag. Um, and so now that I showed it, let me go to my log outline. Um, yeah, definitely, um, keyword tags and inputs are very UX friendly. Um, they enhance the tangibility and concreteness of keywords for a user. Now, to get into how this feature is brought about, there's definitely two main behaviors. One is the adding of a new tag after you type out your text by typing a comma or enter, and then the other would of course be deleting a tag by backspacing or clicking X on tag. Um, and then the nice enhancement to go on top of the main behavior set is auto-suggesting of tag items, um, most likely using a menu that shows the auto-suggestions. And um, this is just going to be me looking at some code um, of libraries out there that do this feature, and I'm going to kind of walk through how the libraries are doing it and see how they're bringing about all this behavior, um, and provide some analysis, some critique too, and you know I like doing these logs, and I do like doing my own code along with them, but it is, I don't know, it is a bit laborious to do the code and the lab work along with a presentation. So this will just be a minor log or presentation. So let's look at the research that I've found here. Going off of my Google HTML text input with keyword tags in it, I found this nice list here. If I post this to YouTube, I'll definitely link the URL here. And I just picked, I think the ones I'm going to look into is this one and this one. So Tagify is what I showed the initial example, the initial usage for, and it has, it's a bit more current than the other one I'm going to look into in a bit, but you can see that, I don't know how well it's going to come through in the presentation, but there is pretty nice animating, like when there's a deletion, the tag kind of shrinks and gets smaller, and if stuff like write some tags animates off and fades out when you focus the input. Stuff like little details like that is always nice to speak on the design side of things. So as well, what's nice here is once again the design and the nice kind of feel that this creates, like when you type in and actually add an item or tag. As you can see, it becomes the tag, and it kind of pops up and gets large and then small. It kind of has a little bit of a like, it kind of shouts out and then takes its place. And yeah, so let's go ahead and check out the code for this guy. Here it shows the client example. If you're clienting it, it works with an input, and here it's finding an input where the attribute name is tags. So if we go down into the DOM here in the developer tools, this is of course not seen, but this is what drives the creation of the tags you see and actually work with. And there is a tags element, like a custom element, if you will, although I don't think this is, don't confuse that with actual web component custom elements, but in a way, in its own way, custom elements, tags, and um, they are filled with tags, of course. So you can see how very nicely and simply there is the layout of these tags that block one after another, and then you have the input that you can actually type into. And what's nice is you can see very clearly how this would work. If you're a developer, it's pretty cut and dry stuff once you really kind of look at it working. It's just a matter of typing in some text, and detecting when there's a comma or enter, and then the insertion of a new tag element with its inner content, which is going to be more HTML, like we have the span here. There's another custom tag, an X, which is nice. It's pretty. It's unique. It's not standard, but it's semantic. The X, very clearly is what you use to delete the tag. So pretty cool stuff. Now we can look at the code a little bit. So this developer has there's the source, and I was looking at distribution. There's even a jQuery version of the Tagify code, and but I'm gonna go ahead and just look at the source, and see what's going on with it. All this code is straight up JavaScript DOM manipulation using stuff like query selector and the browser's own event handling code. So no jQuery, no fancy frameworks, just the raw browser code. So of course we have our Tagify class, if you will. All you need to do is new and set your input that you want the Tagify object to work off of, like we see in the client code, and that is a big part of getting started with making it work, of course. Here we have our prototype. So That's where we're going to be putting our functions. And this build function is pretty key. It is how it's actually building the HTML for the component, just like the developer is noting here. So we can check around where build occurs, and yeah, here we go. It is very expectedly being called in the constructor for the function that is newed off of the function that's used as the constructor, if you will. So it builds using the input given that the user can specify, and it is keeping track of. It's using that to keep track of that newed function, which is this, and there's a bit of new HTML here. So if we look at input HTML, yeah, yeah, it is the inner HTML for this DOM scope object, which is the tags element, right? So if we go back to the example, we can see here's that DOM scope or tags element, and the first thing that we do with the build is insert this input and span, and you can see it says here tagify suggestions, and you'll see that's the exact same thing here. So it's for building itself, it's adding the input that you type into first, and it's keeping track of the input, so it is using query selector to get that that input, which is this guy up here. And one note to make is this is using query selector, which of course is not like jQuery find, which gets you all of the inputs in what is found. Query selector just finds the first input, which is a bit. It's a bit more of a sensible way to select, as opposed to using jQuery's find, which, you know, if there's more than one of the item being found for, then it will give you an array-like object with all of the items that were found. And I don't know, the query selector just makes more sense to use in this case. So let's see here. Input is the original input. We're getting the parent node of input and inserting this insert before. So it looks like this insert before, if I'm reading it right, is going to insert the object being built, this .dom.scope, before input. And let's see if that checks out. Yeah, aside is the parent of the original input, and it's being inserted before the original input. Although the original input is being contained by tags class name. So okay. Oh, and then the next line is explaining what we're seeing in the final DOM after everything is processed here. This.dom.scope append child input. So that's why we're seeing this.dom.scope, which is the tags container element. It is appending input. And with that behavior, the actual JavaScript code or browser JavaScript code for manipulating the DOM, I'm not too familiar with, but mainly what I do is develop with Angular, which abstracts away a lot of this this core code. But it seems like append child um, takes out the element and places it somewhere else, because that's the behavior that I'm seeing. So now let's see how. Yeah, okay. I was thinking, there's probably a way to initialize any tags that are specified by the user, and that's what's happening. The developer's commenting on it right here. If the original input already had value or tags, then you can add them. And we're seeing that here. This, which is the tagify object, add tags, value, and value. If we look at our demo here, like value is 4 different tokens, and yeah, you could see that it is being for each through, and but it's being for each after add tags processes. So it must be for eaching through what's returned by add tags, which seems like the created tags, and they're adding, if the tag exists, then add tagify no anim to the class list. Okay, cool. So let's try to, by looking at this code, I'm going to try to answer the two main behaviors and see how it's being done. Add new tag by typing comma enter, delete tag by backspacing or clicking X on a tag. Let's try and find add new tag by typing comma or enter. Well, that'll be very clearly the setting of behavior for key press events where the keys are comma or enter, and having that behavior be the adding of a new tag. And let's go ahead and check that out. See where we can find it. On key down. Okay. If event key is backspace, this is for removing. So this is, deleting by backspace. Cool, but let's try and find the add new tag by typing comma or enter. Here we go. If E key is enter, this add tags length. And if this add tags actually has a length which is not 0, it would seem, the event target value, which is the input being typed into, is set to an empty string. It makes sense. If you type up your word and you add it, you want the behavior of setting the input to empty, as one would expect. So cool. Let's check out this add tags right here, and it's adding tags S. Okay, S is a variable which is meant to indicate string, and it's event target value. So of course the text that was typed in. So let's see add tags. And if we want to jump back to this code, we're around line 200. Okay, here we go. Tags items. Normalize tags. Preprocessed tags items. So each item should be iterated on in a tag created for. Okay, so it's smartly handling different data types for tags items and giving us an array of objects. So if we go back up to 200, it is adding it's just adding a string, but we can see that this normalize tags, which is a function inside of add tags, and one would think is going to be called later on, is going to be the way to handle the different types of tags, or the different data types for the tags, and give you the array of objects, which, as the developer comments, each item could be iterated on and have a tag created for. Validate tag. Okay, so this developer is showing the functions first and having a bit of pre-processing, but the actual execution is happening after the showing of the functions, which in JavaScript you don't have to do, because you can have those functions hoisted and have the execution code, which I'm seeing right here, be above the functions. But this developer, as many, is probably used to having the functions happen before the execution in the order of code. So there's tags items. Normalize tags call off of this tags items. Okay, so call is a way to call a function where this in the function that is called is what's passed in as the first argument. So it's just saying, it's just saying what I just explained. So, this, which is I believe okay, we got to make sense of what this is, because originally this, or what's calling add tags. What is calling add tags? It is this, which is it's being called by it's an event. So I believe what this means is that it's being called by I think the window object calls it, because like if you do set timeout, which is an event, the function that's called, if I remember right, is called by window, which it means that there's a bit more going on with the setting of this for this handler here. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I actually know how they're having this um, be. I believe the Tagify instance, um, and that code is up here. So okay, maybe not the Tagify instance actually, but um, the elements where the events are happening. So okay, we can walk through what's going on and I'll try to explain it. So we have events, and we're iterating through the object and getting var e, which is going to be the string for these guys. So DOM events 1, which is like input. So this .dom .input add event listener e, which is paste focus blur add event listener e this .callbacks which is this object down here. Events e, so events, and then like paste focus blur key down, and then the 0 item of e, so callbacks on paste. So it's basically saying add a listener to the this.dom.input for these first 5 guys, and the events being handled is paste focus blur input key down, and we're binding this. So and this is it looks like this, and I'm pretty sure it is the Tagify object, the Tagify instance. Because like when we build here, which is called, like this .build, yeah, and this .dom, these are the Tagify instance that is nude when you create a new Tagify instance. These are all related to and only accessible from the Tagify instance. So we're essentially what this code essentially is doing is making it so that the event handlers, as desired, can reference back to the this or notify or Tagify object, and that's what a developer wants to have happen, and that's what this code is achieving. So, like, with our code we were looking at for like on key down, one or a developer can reference can reference functions that are a part of the object, a part of the Tagify instance, like add tags. So it's very useful to have this hooking up of what this is. And there's a bit of code that needs to happen, mainly this code right here, that achieves that hooking up and desired nice behavior for the developer to work with. That's kind of it for this code here, for this library. Yeah, you can see the backspace here is doing that other main behavior, this.remove tag. Okay, pretty cool stuff. Now I'm going to move on to this library. It is, let's check it out and then we can talk about it. So as you can see, it has an autocomplete menu. And it's a little bit different. Like, okay, you type something in, there's available tags. So let's type in C++, and it automatically queues the next input and shows the menu immediately. So on the UX side of things, this is a very efficient UX performant interface. And that feel is definitely happening here, and even the design of the site is emphasizing that. It's very machine-like. I don't know. It seems like this would be good for an internal team at a company to use, where it doesn't need to look great, but it's just got to look and function in relation to the task being done quickly and efficiently. Yeah, like this is the documentation, but even the documentation is along those lines. So the client usage is, in my opinion, as you can see here, it is okay. I don't like it myself too much. It's doing things the jQuery way. You're getting your element that you're going to manipulate with this tag handler, and right off the bat, the having tag handler be the method for creating this component is a bit misdirecting. Handlers, words like handler in code mean responding to or handling something, not creating something. So I would think having a client code where it'd be maybe something like create tags or create tag input component, and then have your options and everything would be more intuitive. So there's that, which is one thing I noticed right off the bat when looking at this jQuery tag input library. So here is the implementation code. There's a lot of it compared to the other library, almost 700 lines. One thing right off the bat, which is which is nice, and another jQuery library implementation code um, technique that I've seen before is the creation of this immediately invoked anonymous function which wraps all of the implementation code and passes in the jQuery object um, is is a way to not have this code collide with the other global variables. So essentially, this creates a new execution context on the execution JavaScript stack and makes it so that all variables, um, you know, are within the scope of this created execution context and are not going to override or overwrite um, uh, variables declared earlier in the global scope. So you're going to have this bit of code not play dirty, if you will, with other um, code that it is mixed with when it is a part of some application. So here we can see um, our tag handler function, the big bad tag handler function. Um, it's using the jQuery way of attaching functions um, to jQuery result sets, if that's the right way to put it. Um, you know, this jQuery object here is going to be the jQuery object that basically wraps the array attack handler element that is found, or set of elements, which shouldn't happen because this is an ID. But basically, attack handler is called off of the jQuery result set. That's the best way I can put it, and I know I will point out I'm not using correct jQuery terminology, but it's working, and please forgive me, but at least I'm making sense with it. So yeah, we have our options object being passed in. We're having ops be a mix of options passed in and the defaults. I researched before this presentation. Yeah, the extend takes the first parameter, which here is an empty object, and basically gets a merging copy of the subsequent parameters. And it's calling each off of this, which is the jQuery result set, and for what's queried for. So it's if you're finding several UL elements, then it's going to iterate through all of them. And I should probably mention that too. It says this here in the code. Basically, well, it says it up here maybe. Yeah, tag handler must be attached to one or more UL tags. So, like, array tag handler is going to be a UL tag, and we can even see that. Yeah, so like this is what's handed to the tag handler function, and there's the items and the input here. Now is a good time to point out another critique I had of this code, and that is that this this there's it's a UL element that is used, so a list. Yes, this is going to be a list. That makes sense. But one of the list items in the same list as the actual list items is holding and containing the input. That doesn't make too much sense for me. It doesn't seem semantic or strongly semantic. And if we look at the Tagify, go back to the Tagify structuring, it's tags and then tag. So you're not having a confusion of between what is used for tag elements and what the input structure is. So there's this clear semantic, appropriate division of elements used between the input structuring and the tag element structuring. Okay, so wanted to note that in talking about this code base's architecture. And let's try to answer the two main questions, which is where is the add happening, where is the remove happening upon backspace. As we walk through the code, okay, so they added some nice features on top of things like being able to get data and have that pre-populate the tags. Cool stuff. Yeah, there's more code here. There's more sophistication with features like allowing of editing. If options allow edit, delegates a click event function to all future LI elements with tag item class that will remove the tag upon click. Okay, interesting. It's a cool function. So that's their way of handling how the remove handling will be delivered. So this is one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to have the element, when it is created and added, have a handler, like when it's clicked on, execute the remove code. But with this one, it's saying for all future LI elements that have a tag item class, when they're clicked, do this code, and a part of it is going to be removing the tag. And let's see here. Where's the remove tag? Here we go. Remove tag passes in EL, which is going to be the actual tag element. And there's other parameters. I don't know what they're doing exactly, but this is where the remove is happening, and it happens when you click the item. And here, input field. Okay, cool. Let's find input field. We're at 366 line. var input field is tag container object find tag input field. That's of course the input. Tag container object find. Find, I'm pretty sure, is a jQuery method, and tag container object is the jQuery object. Yeah, right up here. So there's, and we go back to 366 line. What's interesting is that input field, even though it already is a jQuery object, is being wrapped again by the jQuery root object, which I don't know why it's doing that, but something to note. Perhaps it is just, I believe it could just be input field on and not $ parentheses input field on. Forgive me if that's not the case. This might be necessary, but it might not. And it might not be necessary, but it might be best to just make it easy to see that we're dealing with a jQuery object by explicitly showing it with the wrapping and the $. On key press, yep, and we're going to do the same detection of enters and commas, which I better what these guys are here. And the key codes. And lots of stuff going on. Is element value, which should be like base HTML, input element dot value not equal to empty, and check tag I guess is the way to make sure the tag checks out. Yep, and it's checking the value with a trimming against assigned tags, so it's making sure that the tag that's attempting to be added is not already present or assigned. And lots of other stuff going on here, but if we keep going down, we can see right here the actual add tag call, passing in this new tag, stuff like that. So you could see how now we've answered that main question I wanted to answer for both libraries, which is how are they achieving the base behavior. Yeah. Lots of good stuff. I don't know exactly when I started, but I'm pretty sure I'm at about 25 minutes or so. And I think that's it for this log. This is something I encourage people to do if you're a developer and you're watching this. Just read through some code, present on it. It's a helpful learning tool for the presenter, and for the viewer, probably not so much. But if there is anybody that is ever going to watch this, hopefully you're getting something out of it, and this can be of value. But yeah, I encourage you to present on your own and have it help you out. All right, goodbye.